But normally that would have been 5 series. And instead it's 2.
It's like 2.5. Yeah, but also you got Christmas Eve thrown in there.
True. Well, we should have just not done that this year. Man,
I think we
I really have to clean my glasses. I'm sorry.
This is outrageous. I guess I'll wait. I suppose I could start.
Just go for it. I'll come in when I'm ready.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Big Idea Podcast. My name is Eric Bramlett, and I am joined momentarily by Tammy Melchien. Tammy, how you doing?
I'm great.
Tammy's doing great. She is cleaning her glasses. She got to a point of no return when it came to the inability
I
to see.
wanted to be able to see you.
Right, exactly. And so now that you can, you're here.
They're still not so good, but that's all right.
Really? Okay. Well, if you need more time, I can stall.
No, I'm good.
All right.
I'll power through.
We are excited. This is a Big Idea podcast, and it is a Big Idea podcast where we are not discussing one of the parts of Turn the Page, which means that we've turned the page on that series, and we have moved on to a new series.
And you're happy about that? Or?
Well, so I'm happy about it, but I have to say I'm a little overwhelmed about it, too. Like I just don't know if I can handle it. I have a lot of questions.
He thought we had done all the messages.
Right, exactly. I was ready to just start over with Turn the Page week 1. But this is a great series. This is another kind of maybe longer than usual series.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be covering the first part in this podcast. But I'm really excited about it because of the energy around Explore God and the momentum that's going to take place throughout the entire city of Chicago and the suburbs of Chicago. So, Tammy, why don't you kick us off and tell us a little bit about this idea, where we're headed with it, and what we hope to accomplish.
Okay. Specific or week 1 or the
Explore God in general.
Okay, Explore God.
Why are we doing this?
We are partnering with hundreds of churches across the Chicagoland area. I'm not sure. I know the goal was 1,000. I don't know if we're getting close to that or not. That we are all doing this series at the same time, and there's supposed to be. Hopefully, by the time you watch this, there might be some billboards up that you see if you're driving on the interstate, or I don't know where they'll be. Or I think they're going to have ads sponsoring news and weather on 15 secular radio stations. So,
and by secular, you mean like sports radio stations?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Got it.
So anyway, hopefully this is going to be a great movement for our whole city. And the focus of this series is really trying to outreach to people with these 7 big questions. And they're even, as we've been planning these, some of us have struggled with the order that these questions are in, but I keep reminding everyone we can't change the order because we're doing this along with hundreds of other churches, and that's what the website and the ads and all that will be.
But it is important to note that from like a creating standpoint, it's the questions and the way in which we choose to answer them are completely up to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with that, should we dive into week 1?
Yeah, week 1. Take it away.
So the first question is, does life have a purpose? And the answer is?
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. But for this one, we haven't taught, and I think in a while, from Ecclesiastes. So we're going to go Solomon on this and his kind of rants about meaningless. Everything's meaningless, and all the ways that he tried to find meaning and couldn't find it until finally he came to his conclusion that the meaning is God, and life, finding life in Him is the only thing that has meaning. So, I definitely think we can relate this to our culture, but even there's those big questions, but then there's also the questions within that of, well, what is my purpose? What should I be doing? Who should I be doing, life with? And one of the things that I think we'll address in this message is, I think it's in one of the paragraphs here, we'll invite people to consider how they live as if there is a God or if there isn't a God. Because, just because you believe in God doesn't mean you live
for Him.
As if there's God. And there's a difference between believing God exists and living as if God exists. And we'll encourage one another to consider how, how we would answer that for ourselves how that might affect our sense of meaning and sense of purpose. So that's kind of going after that big question in this first one.
I love it. And each one of these, I mean, I think the challenge is going to be with some of these is the bleed over, and we'll even get to some of that the next week. But it's like really trying to hone in on, okay, what is this question addressing, and what, what is this saying, and what also is it not saying?
Yep.
Because as you'll see, you could almost go down similar roads with lots of these questions.
Yes. Yep, and we definitely felt that when we go to the second one.
Yeah, exactly. So after we've addressed the answer about a purpose, either driven or existent life,
then we go back to,
well, wait a minute.
Is there even a God?
Is there a God? And now I can hear the people arguing for switching those 2 weeks.
Yes. Now you understand.
Now I understand your pain, and I appreciate your steadfast resolve to be a team player.
But I think the difference we're going to maybe look at in this first one is where week one, we'll probably focus a little bit more with, the felt need of our experience of what, is their purpose and all this, where honestly, I could imagine week two being a little headier and a little bit more of an intellectual, because the main bulk of this, of course we can't prove God's existence, with some kind of scientific experiment.
Right.
But the bulk of this talk is
at least not in an hour-long service. If we had 2 hours.
If we had 2 hours, maybe. But the bulk of this is going to be to focus on the indicators that there are for God's existence, primarily natural indicators. So looking at nature, looking at how, the stuff you read sometimes, if this was half a degree off, the whole galaxy would blow up, that kind of stuff.
Right.
The natural indicators, and we'll probably dive into some scientific stuff there. One of the things we asked Dawson to look into, but might be for you guys to consider, arts directors, as we do this, is, I don't know if you've heard of Francis Collins. He's a leading DNA scientist, and his story is that he was an atheist, and it was as he worked with DNA that he became a Christ follower, because he just, seeing what he saw, he couldn't explain it in any way other than that. So there are natural indicators, but then also ethical indicators. That sense of even if we have this innate kind of morality in us, this sense of, if I just haul off and punch you in the face right now, everybody knows that's wrong.
Yes. Now some might celebrate it for different reasons, but in there, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and it's some of the stuff too that I think that those of us who maybe have been Christ followers for a long time, or this comes quickly to us, I think there's a tendency to just go, oh yeah, well that's image of God stuff. Oh well, that's the image of God. That's why there is a God, is because this stuff is here, and I think it's not necessarily a quick move for every single person. They see those things, and it doesn't necessarily automatically connect to, oh well, then therefore there must be a God. So it's going to be important, I think, to give people the space in this moment, and I think when you think about it that way, it makes the order of message 1 to message 2, I think, a little bit more compelling when we're talking about a series that's called Explore God. Yeah. It's like you don't necessarily have to, close the deal in week 1 so that we can answer all these other questions. Yeah. This becomes one of the questions. Yeah. And we'll figure this out in the brainstorm, but we felt like this might lend itself to that Pascal's wager, that God, if you're real, make yourself real to me, as the takeaway for this week. So, and that's why in the map I included, back from the Finding Your Way Back to God series, the stuff that was on that, in case we want to go that direction. Very good. Feels like a book promo opportunity to me.
Sort of does.
If only we had one around, or people to promote it. All right, then we go into week 3. Why does God allow pain and suffering? Ugh.
Yep.
I don't want to talk about this.
We're gonna.
Okay, I'm ready. I'll be ready.
So, we've had a couple messages in the last few years that had this bent to it. I mean, I think in our bumper sticker theology one, when was that, earlier this year?
Yeah.
We had a bent to that, but we actually went back farther than that, and we did this question in a series called Reasons, that I think by the time we do this, it might be close to 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so honestly, when we looked at that message, I think this might be one where we want to draw a lot of from the past. In that message, I think we address it by looking back at the past of what we see in the garden, of what God's intention for us, of looking to the future of what is promised, but then also how knowing those things helps us in the present. And I can imagine us drawing quite a bit from that message into this one. And so, but I do think that out of all of these, this might be the one where we again want to look for a story of someone who's faced, and I can tell you when we're off camera who these
Sure.
potential ideas, but we want to look for a story that would fit that. I think, when we did bumper sticker reasons, having Sherry tell her story
Right.
and this kind of talk, I think that's really a powerful thing.
Absolutely. I love the Helen Keller quote, although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it. That's good stuff.
She probably knows what she's talking about.
Yes. Well, she did. I mean, she knows she's not.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
No, I was aware.
Okay. Just checking. If we need to have a docent research that, you just let me know.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's the first 3 weeks, but there are 4 more to come, and they're all kind of in that area of asking these questions. And really, I mean, there's a small group component that's connected to this that's going to be very important, that we're going to be really trying to encourage people to think about and have happen in their neighborhoods. Some really, really good stuff that we get to sort of kind of hopefully run alongside of momentum that's also being generated in other avenues. And so, answering or at least addressing these questions really, really does hit the felt need of so many of the people that are on this journey of finding their way back to God. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be fantastic.
I would just say before we go, because this might be part of your brainstorming too, is if all works according to plan, we may have a lot of first-time visitors with us during this series. And so I don't know if we might want to think about that and some of the elements we plan or some of the things we think to do.
No, that's good. It's good. Good reminder. All right. Well, that's the first 3 weeks. We got 4 more coming, and hope that the brainstorms are fruitful and good and awesome, and that it's going to be a great start of 2019 as a result. So
see everyone.
That's Tammy. I'm Eric. This has been the Big Idea Podcast. Do you want to go back over there and start where you started?
Well, I'm probably not going to sit here for the rest of the day.
Well, that's true. Well, why don't you go ahead and go? All right.
See ya.
Go fix those glasses once and for all. So long, everybody.